Have you ever wondered why your results don't match your prayers? Why you start with fire and end with fumes? Why you make a decision on Sunday and can't even find it by Wednesday? Have you ever looked at your life and said, I wasn't hit by a storm, so why does it feel like I'm still sinking? Listen carefully. Most people do not fail in one loud, embarrassing moment. Most people lose quietly. They leak slowly. The collapse you call sudden was only the final sound of a long, silent surrender to inconsistency. You must understand this. The enemy of your destiny does not always come with a crash. He often comes with a drip. The truth is, you didn't stop believing. You stopped building. You didn't abandon your purpose. You abandoned your patterns. You still love God. You still have vision. You still shout amen, but your habits whisper, not today. And those whispers win. Why? Because desire is not a system. Desire can ignite you, but only discipline can sustain you. You can fast until your stomach growls. You can cry until your eyes are dry, and still drift, because drifting requires nothing. Direction requires order. Hear me, you don't drift into destiny. You discipline into it. Say it again in your mind until it arrests your excuses. You don't drift into destiny. You discipline into it. Many of you keep waiting for a big break when God is waiting for a consistent step. You keep asking for a miracle to undo years of disorganization, while heaven keeps inviting you to align with a law. As you sow, you reap. As you order, you prosper. As you steward, you increase. This is not condemnation. This is diagnosis, because what is diagnosed can be corrected, and what is corrected can be redeemed. I am not here to shame you. I am here to bring your life under the light of truth, so the leak can be located. The Spirit of God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. If confusion roams your schedule, your priorities, and your habits, it's not God who wrote that script. The good news is, you can rewrite it today. Let me talk to your everyday life. You keep starting a new habit with energy, then vanishing when no one is watching. You decide you'll read, but you don't return to the book. You commit to prayer, but you negotiate it when sleep feels sweet. You promise yourself you'll protect your mornings, then you hand them to distractions dressed as obligations. You think something dramatic stole your progress. No, it evaporated in tiny moments of negotiation, in repeated breaks of discipline that felt harmless in the moment and catastrophic in the accumulation. The problem is not that you lack opportunity, it's that you lack continuity. The problem is not that your dream is too big, it's that your system is too small. Understand the nature of leaks. A ship doesn't sink because water is around it. It sinks because water enters it. Your environment, pressures, demands, storms, is not supposed to decide your destiny. Your inner government is. Leadership begins with self-government. Your life is a nation, and every habit is a policy. What are your policies? Are they protecting your purpose or permitting your leak? You have been given authority over your time, your attention, and your daily practices. Until you understand that your assignment requires legislation, real laws you refuse to break, your potential will continue to be taxed by inconsistency. I want you to hear me clearly. You can't pray your way into a life you refuse to structure. Prayer is power, yes, but power without order is chaos multiplied. God will anoint you for your assignment, but He will not organize your calendar. He will fill your vision, but He will not file your priorities. You are waiting for a wind, and heaven is waiting for a will. Stop asking inspiration to do a job that belongs to discipline. Your future is not postponed by lack of information. It is postponed by lack of implementation. Say it again. You don't drift into destiny, you discipline into it. The quiet collapse shows up as little compromises that never make a headline, but always make a difference. 5 minutes late becomes a lifestyle. One missed day becomes a week. A cluttered desk becomes a cluttered mind. A neglected commitment becomes a lost credibility. And the enemy nods because he doesn't need you to renounce your purpose. He only needs you to be inconsistent with it. But hear the hope in this moment. Leaks can be repaired. Patterns can be replaced. Systems can be built. Order can be restored. God is not condemning you. He is calling you to alignment. This is not punishment. It is invitation. This is not about being perfect. It is about being prepared. So what do you do right now? First, admit the leak. Confession is not just for sin. It is for mismanagement. Acknowledge where you disappear. Name the places where your yes fades. The moment you locate the leak, you take back your authority. Second, renew your identity. You are made in the image of a king, and kings govern. Because you're made in his image, order is meant to be your lifestyle. You are not flaky. That's a learned pattern. You are not unreliable. That's a tolerated habit. Identity precedes consistency. When you believe you are a disciplined person, discipline stops being punishment and becomes expression. Finally, set your expectation correctly. This turnaround will not be a spectacle. It will be a sequence. Not fireworks, but framework. Not a sprint, but a structure. Your purpose is too precious to be managed by moods. Force yourself into organization. Establish simple, repeatable, vision-aligned rhythms that you will not betray. Small obediences done daily produce great outcomes seen eventually. This is how destinies are sustained. This is how noise is silenced. This is how the quiet collapse is reversed. And as you step into it, let this line be the law that governs your choices when your feelings fluctuate. You don't drift into destiny. You discipline into it. Now let's name it. Listen carefully. You keep calling it laziness, but you're not lazy. You work hard at many things. You keep blaming a lack of gifting, but you have proof of grace all over your life. You keep saying there are no opportunities, yet doors have opened and you walked past them because you weren't ready. You keep rebuking the devil, and yes, there is warfare, but some of what you are fighting is not a demon. It's a decision you keep postponing. The real enemy strangling your progress is inconsistency. You must understand this. Inconsistency is not a personality quirk. It is not a harmless mood swing. It is a spiritual and practical pattern that steals your future in silence. The truth is, inconsistency is broken agreement with your own declared purpose. It is the quiet treason of your yes. You said this mattered. You announced your values. You wrote it in your journal. You stood in church and made the vow. But then, day after day, in small, unrecorded moments, you violated what you said mattered. That is what leaks your momentum. That is what empties your confidence. That is what makes you suspicious of your own words. And when you stop trusting your own word, you stop believing your own future. Until you understand that consistency is a covenant with your calling, you will keep writing checks with your mouth that your habits cannot cash. Inconsistency is a thief because it never knocks on the door with a mask on. It doesn't announce, "Today I will sabotage your destiny." It dresses itself as wisdom. It disguises itself as flexibility. I'm just going with the flow. It pretends to be busyness. I'm doing so much, surely that counts. It hides behind timing. I'm waiting for the right moment. It even cloaks itself in pseudo-care. I'm protecting my peace. But hear me. True peace is the fruit of order, not the excuse for avoidance. True timing is stewarding your season, not suspending your obedience. True flexibility adapts to truth. It does not abandon truth. Don't confuse diversion with discretion. Don't call your drift discernment. That vocabulary is giving your leak permission to continue. Let me make it plain. Picture the believer who prays like a lion at the altar on Sunday, tears flowing, fire burning, declarations flying, and yet cannot maintain a simple morning rhythm on Monday. They promise, "I will meet God at 6 a.m., and by Wednesday it is, "I will meet him when I can." They love God, they're sincere. But sincerity does not substitute for structure. You can feel deeply and still live disordered. You can be anointed and still be undisciplined. And when passion is not partnered with pattern, you will always return to average after every peak. Now consider the leader who can electrify a room, cast a compelling vision, inspire teams to move mountains. Yet their own mornings are surrendered to chaos. Their money is unmanaged. Their calendar is a cemetery where priorities go to die. They motivate others but cannot govern themselves. Hear me with love. That is not leadership. That is performance. Leadership begins with self-government. If you cannot lead your time, you cannot lead your team. If you cannot steward your money, you cannot steward the mission. If you cannot keep appointments with yourself, you will break appointments with destiny. You think the devil is trying to destroy you in one blow. He doesn't always need to. He just needs to interrupt you repeatedly until your momentum dies. A missed morning here, a delayed decision there, a postponed call, a half-finished task, a compromised boundary, death by 1,000 distractions. He knows that a moving train is hard to stop, so he doesn't try to derail you at full speed. He just keeps tapping your brakes until you forget why you started. Interruptions become your new normal. You start to define yourself by unfinished things, and when unfinished becomes your identity, failure is no longer an event. It becomes a lifestyle. You must understand the spiritual mechanics behind this. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Where confusion becomes the climate of your days, God is not the architect of that design. Peace is not passive. It is the byproduct of alignment. And alignment requires agreement, not just Sunday agreement, daily agreement, hourly agreement. Agreement between your confession and your calendar, your belief and your behavior, your vision and your routine. Inconsistency is the fracture in that agreement. It's the hairline crack in the foundation that you ignore because the house still looks pretty, until a storm comes and reveals the structural lie. Let me ask you a confronting question. In what areas have you renamed neglect to make it feel noble? Have you baptized disorganization as creative flow? Have you excused procrastination as waiting on God when God has already spoken and you are avoiding the hard work of follow-through? Have you called overcommitment servanthood when it is simply the fear of saying no? The enemy only needs your language to collaborate with your leakage. Words shape worlds. When you label inconsistency as something admirable, you license it to stay. Listen carefully. This is not condemnation, this is clarity. Your destiny is too important to be driven by moods. Your assignment is too critical to be surrendered to how I feel today. Feelings are real, but they are not rulers. Covenant is the ruler. Purpose is the ruler. Obedience is the ruler. You don't have to be brilliant to be consistent. You don't have to be perfect to be reliable. You do have to be decided. Decide to be the kind of person whose yes is yes. Decide that your future can trust you. Decide that what God whispered to you in prayer will be honored by what you plan, what you practice, and what you protect. This is where the transformation begins, by naming inconsistency as an enemy to your identity. You are made in the image of a king, and kings keep order. You are not unstable. You have simply trained your life to ignore your own instructions. Retrain it. Reprogram your inner government. Replace scattered effort with settled rhythm. Replace endless starts with faithful returns. Replace dramatic promises with daily proofs. That is holiness in motion, integrity between what God showed you and what you show up for. Hear the hope in this. Thieves can be stopped when they are recognized. As long as inconsistency is your friend, it will keep borrowing your future without returning it. From this moment, let it be your enemy. Resist it the way you resist sin. Treat broken agreements like alarms, not lullabies. When you feel the urge to drift, speak to your soul like David did. Command it back into alignment. Declare, my purpose has a priority, my calling has a calendar, my destiny has a daily. And when interruptions come, and they will, choose your covenant over your convenience, because the enemy doesn't need you to deny your assignment. He just needs you to delay it long enough that the season passes and the opportunity expires. You don't need a new prophecy to fix this. You need a new pattern. You don't need a louder shout. You need a stronger schedule. You don't need a different destiny. You need a consistent decision. Starting now, expose the disguises, revoke the excuses, and confront the real thief. This is the holy war of your everyday life. Order against chaos, peace against confusion, covenant against compromise. Win it one consistent act at a time. And as you do, watch momentum return, confidence resurrect, and the silence of stolen years break under the sound of steady obedience. Now that you have exposed the thief, you must enthrone the law that defeats it. Listen carefully. Order is not a suggestion. It is a spiritual statute, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. That means persistent confusion in your schedule, your finances, your habits, and your relationships is not divine design. It is misalignment. You must understand this. Peace is the signature of God's government. If peace is absent, His government has been resisted. And where His government is resisted, progress stalls, purpose pauses, and potential sits in the waiting room of your life, unfulfilled, not because God said no, but because your system said later. Look at how the King of the Kingdom introduced Himself to creation. In the beginning, the earth was formless and void. And what did He do first? He didn't start with activity. He started with alignment. He spoke light into the darkness. Then He separated it. He divided waters from waters and set boundaries for seas. He placed lights in the heavens to govern day and night, to mark seasons and days and years. He commanded that everything bring forth according to its kind, each within its order. He planted a garden, named its rivers, and placed a man within boundaries to cultivate and to keep. Before He assigned function, He established form. Before He released fruitfulness, He set frameworks. Before destiny unfolded, order arrived. This is your blueprint. Destiny is incubated in order. Anointing moves fastest on the tracks of structure. And when you try to live by surges instead of systems, you are asking the kingdom to bless a climate it never created. Hear the law and receive it. Where there is order, peace dwells. Where peace dwells, progress begins. Where progress begins, purpose unfolds. This is not poetry, this is protocol. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of alignment. When you bring your life into order, peace sits down in your mind like a judge on the bench and starts issuing approvals. Think clearly, act decisively, move steadily. You stop being pulled by random urgencies and start being led by righteous priorities. The fog lifts, the noise quiets, vision gets a voice. And once peace has settled the atmosphere, progress becomes inevitable because the confusion that used to eat your hours no longer has a seat at your table. The kingdom never advances by chaotic flashes, it advances by divine patterns. Consider it. When God wanted a dwelling among His people, He gave Moses a pattern for the tabernacle. Measurements, materials, sequences. Build it this way. When Jesus fed the 5,000, He didn't start with the miracle. He started with management. Sit them down in groups. Order the people, then multiply the bread. When the early church faced internal strain over distribution, they didn't shout louder. They structured better. They appointed faithful stewards so that prayer and the word would not be neglected. And the word says, the number of disciples multiplied greatly. Miracles ride in on management. Increase follows instruction. Heaven honors order. Let me confront the lie that keeps some of you in cycles. You have begun to baptize disorder as a personality. That's just how I am. I'm spontaneous. I thrive in chaos. No, you survive in chaos while your destiny starves. The kingdom moves on structure, not sudden surges. Surges excite crowds, but structures transform cities. Surges make you feel powerful for a moment, but structures make you fruitful for a lifetime. You don't need another surge of motivation. You need a system that outlasts your moods. You don't need a goosebump. You need a government, self-government, that aligns your choices with your calling. Discipline, then, is not punishment. It is preparation. Do you hear me? God is not trying to take fun from you. He is building a vessel that can carry weight. New wine requires a new wineskin, because the wine will expand, and without structure it will burst and be wasted. Many of you are praying for wine without building the skin. You are asking for influence without boundaries, for visibility without accountability, for increase without management. The truth is, God loves you too much to answer that prayer. He will not fund what you refuse to govern. He will not endorse what you will not order. He waits for you to become a vessel, a system, a structure capable of sustaining the blessing without leaking it. You must understand this at the deepest level. Order is worship. It is your practical amen. When you block your time to honor prayer, you are saying, King, you rule my morning. When you craft a budget, you declare, Lord, you govern my increase. When you set boundaries for your mind, what you will watch, who you will entertain, how you will think, you are building a sanctuary in your soul where His peace can dwell. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. If confusion keeps writing your daily story, stop reading it. Tear up that script and let the author of peace dictate your steps by commanding your systems. Have you noticed how different you feel when your environment is in order? Clean room, clear desk, planned day. You think better, you speak better, you choose better. That is not coincidence, it is covenant. Outer order serves inner clarity, and inner clarity produces consistent choices. This is why the enemy wages such a subtle war against your structure. If he can keep your space cluttered, your calendar crowded, your priorities blurry, then he can keep your spirit agitated. And an agitated spirit misinterprets seasons, mismanages resources, and misses appointments with destiny. But when you accept order as spiritual, you become unbribable. You stop negotiating with distractions. You look at interruptions and say, my purpose has policy, my calling has boundaries, my destiny has a daily rhythm that I will not betray. So what must you do right now? Stop waiting to feel ready and start structuring what you already know. You already know you must pray. Schedule it. You already know you must steward your health. Plan it. You already know you must build your skill. Block it. You already know you must honor your commitments. Protect them. Stop treating obvious duties like optional extras. Feelings are welcomed guests, but they are not permitted drivers. Your covenant must drive. Your structure must steer. Your system must sustain. Let me ask you a hard, liberating question. Where in your life have you asked God for fruit while refusing to plant rows? Where have you complained about no harvest while never scheduling sowing? Where have you expected peace in a place you have not ordered? The solution is not distant, it is daily. Set your house in order. Set your mornings in order. Set your money in order. Set your relationships in order. Not because perfection earns favor, but because order makes room for grace to move freely. Grace multiplies what management preserves. This is the turning point. Once you accept that order is spiritual, you stop chasing energy spikes and you start constructing a life that can carry answers. You become predictable to heaven, trustworthy to people, dependable to your future. And as you move in that alignment, watch what happens. Peace Peace replaces panic, focus replaces frustration, confidence replaces confusion. The kingdom within you begins to regulate the life around you, and suddenly you are no longer sprinting and collapsing. You are walking and conquering, not by a surge, but by a structure, not by a mood, but by a mandate, not by chance, but by covenant. Order is not optional. It is the way your king creates, the way your purpose breathes, and the way your destiny travels from promise to performance. Listen carefully. Now that you know order is the law, let us test for the leaks that keep breaking that law in your daily life. Leaks don't explode, they drip. You can look composed on the outside and still be losing pressure on the inside. You can post excellence while privately eroding. You can stand on a stage and still sink in a secret place. This is the quiet collapse I spoke of. No headlines, just a steady hiss of strength, escaping through small breaks you call no big deal. You must understand this. Your greatest losses are often not from major sins, but from minor inconsistencies that slowly drain your strength. It's the small foxes that spoil the vine. It's not a hurricane, it's a hairline crack, not a crash, a compromise. So let's locate them, because what you can name, you can manage, and what you can manage, you can master. One leak is inconsistent sleep. Yes, I said it. You spiritualize your exhaustion, but the truth is, your body is a stewardship. When your sleep is random, your mind is foggy, your focus is poor, and your self-control is on thin ice. The moment that should be used for prayer becomes a negotiation with a pillow. You ask your soul to run a marathon on fumes. And then you wonder why discipline feels like punishment. The problem is not that you don't love God, it's that you won't honor the temple in which you meet Him. Another leak is inconsistent prayer and word intake. You feast on Sunday but fast Monday through Saturday. You sip truth like a hobby and expect faith like a fortress. You scroll more than you study. You talk more than you listen. You check in with God, but don't dwell. And what happens? Your spirit runs a deficit. Fear spends what faith never deposited. Anxiety writes checks your peace cannot cover. Here is another. Inconsistent financial stewardship. You pray for increase but refuse a budget. You declare abundance while your money has no mission. You give impulsively, spend emotionally, save occasionally, and plan rarely. Then pressure hits and you call it an attack, when often it is an absence of order. God is generous, but He is also wise. He does not pour new wine into torn wineskins. He will not entrust overflow to a life that leaks through undisciplined spending, unreviewed subscriptions, unmonitored accounts, and unkept records. And hear this with love, your credibility is currency. When you pay late and promise early, you create a gap your future must pay for. Another leak. Inconsistent follow-through. You start strong, you finish faint. You sign up quickly, you show up slowly. You make declarations in public and renegotiate them in private. You announce goals and abandon processes. You call it bored, busy, or not inspired, but let's name it broken agreements. Every time you break an appointment with yourself, you teach your soul that your word doesn't matter. And when your soul no longer believes your word, your faith begins to stumble, because faith also believes a word. If your own words fail you, God's word will feel distant, not because it lost power, but because your inner government lost credibility. And here is a quiet but deadly one. Inconsistent emotional management. You treat moods like monarchs. When you feel high, you do right. When you feel low, you disappear. You make permanent decisions in temporary storms. You let offense break your rhythm. You let comparison poison your peace. You let worry eat your hours. Instead of governing your emotions, you let your emotions govern your schedule. You have not placed a sentinel at the gate of your heart, so any thought can march in and rearrange your day. The result? A reactive life. A calendar written by interruptions. A destiny negotiated by distraction. What do these leaks do to you? They create spiritual fatigue. You spend more energy restarting than you spend building. You have lived too many day ones. Every week a new begin again. Every month a fresh this time for real. Your life becomes a series of relaunches with no runway. You know that feeling. You organize your desk, you hype yourself up, you draft a plan, and by Thursday you are back at zero, carrying the guilt of another broken promise. This constant reboot drains confidence like a phone that never reaches a full charge. It turns simple tasks into heavy lifts because you are lifting them from a standstill again and again. The problem is not your dream. The problem is your discontinuity. And the fatigue compounds. Inconsistency multiplies stress because you live in constant catch-up. When you don't govern your time, everything becomes urgent. And when everything is urgent, nothing important gets done. Urgency starts screaming while importance goes silent. Reaction replaces direction. You rush to put out fires you started by neglect. You borrow tomorrow's energy to pay for yesterday's delay. You think life is persecuting you, but much of your pressure is self-inflicted by choices that refuse order. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. If confusion has become your normal, you are living under a script God did not write. Now I'm going to ask you questions you cannot afford to dodge. Where do you break promises to yourself most often? In the morning with your alarm? In your evenings with your screen? In your spending when you're stressed? In your words when you're wounded? What do you start and not finish? Books, courses, conversations, budget plans, workout routines, prayer plans. Where do you hide under the phrase, "I'll do it later," knowing later has become your cemetery of good intentions? What do you only do when you feel like it? Worship, study, generosity, saving, skill development. Who do you become when no one is checking? Are you the same person your future can trust? Answer honestly, because honesty is the first hammer that repairs the crack. Let me make it even more practical. Do a leak test over the last 7 days. How many nights did you honor your sleep window? How many mornings did you meet your maker intentionally before meeting your messages? How many times did you eat what you planned instead of what your cravings demanded? How many dollars did you direct with purpose, and how many drifted away unassigned? How many tasks moved from "I will" to "I did"? How many moments did you lose to moods, irritation that stalled you, comparison that distracted you, worry that paralyzed you? This is not harassment, this is measurement. You cannot manage what you refuse to measure, and you cannot grow what you refuse to govern. Listen carefully. A leak is not a life sentence, it is a repair order. It does not mean you are cursed, it means you need wisdom. God restores by instruction, not by infatuation. He fixes foundations, not fantasies. He gave Noah a pattern, Joseph a plan, Daniel a rhythm, and Jesus himself rose early with intention. Heaven's way is wisdom manifested as order. So when you discover a leak, don't despair, design. Don't wish, work. Don't just cry, calibrate. Invite the Spirit to search you, then build what He shows you. Confession opens the door, construction secures the house. You may say, "But I've tried before and failed." And I will answer you with love and truth. You attempted surges, not systems. You leaned on inspiration, not implementation. You waited for a mood, not a mandate. Until you understand that consistency is built by structure, by pre-deciding your decisions, by scheduling your priorities, by protecting your non-negotiables, you will live in the loop of restart and regret. This is why discipline is a gift. Discipline is the bridge between revelation and realization. It carries you when inspiration walks away. It keeps you from letting interruptions write your destiny. Hear me. God is for you. He is not shaming you. He is shaping you. His peace is not far. It is waiting on your alignment. The leak test is mercy, not judgment. It is God handing you a flashlight to find what is costing you strength. And when you find it, address it like a king. Kings set laws, kings build systems, kings appoint stewards. Your life is a kingdom under God's kingdom. Appoint policies for your mornings, establish boundaries for your emotions. Create a budget that tells your money where to go before it chooses its own path. Write a simple rhythm for your study of the Word and prayer, and keep your appointments with God like you would with any king, because He is the king, and your appointment with Him orders everything else. I want you to feel both the weight and the hope. The weight because destiny leaks through little holes left unguarded. The hope because the same small acts that drained you can be the small, consistent acts that fill you. 5 faithful mornings can restore more confidence than one dramatic night of resolve. 1 month of stewardship can preach louder to your future than a year of vague affirmation. 1 guarded thought can prevent a spiral that used to waste 3 days of your life. Peace replaces panic, focus replaces frustration, confidence replaces confusion, not by accident but by order, not by hype but by habit, not by wishing but by wisdom applied daily. So take the test. Tell the truth. Then take back your authority 1 repaired crack at a time. The kingdom within you is ready to govern the life around you. This is your invitation to stop bleeding slowly and start building steadily. Your future doesn't need a louder you, it needs a more consistent you. Your purpose doesn't need more passion, it needs more pattern. And as you submit to that wisdom, you will feel it. The pressure easing, the strength returning, the rhythm forming, the anointing no longer evaporating under undisciplined heat. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Let His peace author your days as you repair the leaks that once wrote your delays. Listen carefully. You have identified the leaks and you have honored the law of order, but until you address the identity that keeps turning the valve, you will fix today and fail tomorrow. You must understand this. You don't rise to your intentions. You return to your identity. When pressure comes, you don't do what you meant to do. You do what you believe you are. That is why you can have a notebook full of goals and still live a calendar full of excuses. The problem is not that you don't want a disciplined life. The problem is that you don't yet see yourself as the kind of person for whom discipline is normal. Until you understand who you are, you cannot sustain what you do. Let me anchor you in the King's design. You are made in the image and likeness of God. That is not a religious cliché. It is a blueprint. The one whose image you bear is not the author of confusion, but of peace. He creates with order, governs with rhythm, advances with alignment. That means order is not foreign to you, it is familiar. Faithfulness is not a stretch, it is your native language. Stewardship is not strange, it is your birthright. You were fashioned for governance, for dominion, for self-government under His government. Chaos is a learned behavior. Order is your original identity. When you live scattered, you are living beneath your design. When you live structured, you are simply returning home. So why do you still stumble? Because you have baptized lies as labels and called them personality. I'm just inconsistent. I'm not a routine person. I can't focus. Hear me with love. Those are not quirks, they are confessions. And confession builds culture. When you declare disorder over yourself, your soul organizes around that prophecy and begins to produce fruit that matches it. Your words become policies in your inner government. You say, I'm inconsistent, and your calendar stops expecting you to show up. You say, I'm not a morning person, and your spirit stops preparing to meet the King at dawn. You say, I can't focus, and your mind stops attempting mastery. Death and life are born on the tongue, and you've been cursing your own follow-through with casual sentences. The truth is, your life obeys your internal constitution. Change the constitution, and you change the culture. Let's write a new constitution right now. Replace the false labels with kingdom identity. Say it in your heart until your habits cannot ignore it. I am a steward. I am faithful. I am built for governance. I finish what I start. I manage what heaven places in my hands. I am a son, a daughter of the King, and kings do not apologize for order. I am consistent not because I always feel like it, but because consistency is who I am. I am disciplined not to earn love, but to express royalty. I show up because my identity has already decided. These are not motivational slogans, they are legal declarations. You are building the courtroom of your soul, and your identity must issue the verdict before your habits can enforce the sentence. Consider how this works everywhere else. An athlete trains long before the feeling arrives because I am an athlete governs the day. A soldier rises at command because I am a soldier outranks comfort. A parent sacrifices sleep for a crying child because I am a mother, I am a father, overrides mood. Identity flows to habit like a river following its course. If you keep trying to behave your way into a new belief, you will exhaust yourself. Believe your way into a new behavior and the strain becomes strength. Inspiration initiates, identity sustains. You don't need a new plan as much as you need a new name. And let me remind you of the dignity of your calling. You are a royal priesthood. You carry both worship and government. That means prayer is not a hobby. It is a royal appointment. Budgeting is not stinginess. It is treasury management. Planning is not control freak behavior. It is kingly foresight. Boundaries are not barriers to joy. They are walls that protect a city called purpose. When you see yourself this way, discipline stops feeling like a prison and starts functioning like a palace. You don't avoid distractions because you're uptight. You avoid them because you are on duty. You don't keep your word because you're rigid. You keep it because your crown cannot sit on a careless head. Now, identity alone is not magic, it is mandate. Once you accept who you are, you must build structures that protect that identity from moods, distractions, and pressure. A king has decrees. A steward has ledgers. A priest has liturgies. Put policies around your identity. If you are a faithful steward, then your money must meet a plan before the month begins. If you are a person of prayer, then your mornings must be reserved before meetings are scheduled. If you are a finisher, then tasks must be broken into clear, honorable steps with visible checkpoints so your finish line is not a fog. If you are built for governance, then your phone must be governed, your notifications silenced during holy work, your environment arranged like a sanctuary for focus, clean desk, clear list, closed doors. Listen carefully. Feelings are visitors. Identity is the resident. Do not build your day for visitors. Build it for the resident. There will be days when your mood is low, your body is tired, your mind is distracted. That is precisely why you must pre-decide. Pre-decide your devotions. Pre-decide your work blocks. Pre-decide your giving. Pre-decide your rest. Pre-decide what you do when you feel scattered. Take a 5-minute breath. Pray the promises. Review the vision. Reset the next right action. When your identity is clear and your structure is set, pressure cannot bully you into inconsistency. You will still feel the wind, but you won't lose the wheel. Stop negotiating with labels that heaven never wrote. Who told you that you are chronically disorganized? Who told you that excellence is for others, but not for you? Who told you that you are the exception to order, not the spirit of truth? He calls you wise, faithful, diligent, fruitful. He calls you a city on a hill, not a tent in a storm. Receive that name. Wear it into your week. Let it judge your to-do list and veto habits that contradict it. If you say, I am a finisher, then entertainment cannot consume your prime hours. If you say, I am a steward, then impulse cannot sign your checks. If you say, I am faithful, then lateness must be treated as unacceptable, not cute. This inner alignment will change the atmosphere of your life. Peace replaces panic because you are no longer acting from anxiety. You are operating from identity. Focus replaces frustration because you are no longer chasing 10 versions of yourself. You have chosen who you are. Confidence replaces confusion because your actions harmonize with your beliefs. And once that melody is set, your systems can become the drumbeat that keeps you on tempo. Write the vision and make it plain, not to impress others, but to remind yourself daily of who you are and why you are here. Protect your priorities with appointments that cannot be casually moved. Build accountability that respects your royalty. Mentors who can correct you, peers who can check on you, reminders that can redirect you. Until you understand this, you will idolize inspiration and despise discipline. But when identity leads, discipline becomes devotion. When you see yourself as heaven sees you, habits become holy. Start with who, then decide the what, then set the when, then guard the how. And as you do, the kingdom within you will govern the life around you. Order will stop being a season and become your culture. Consistency will stop being a fight and become your flow. For the God who authored peace has authored you, and his image in you is not fragile. Stand up in it, speak it over your mornings, structure it into your evenings, and let your identity write the habits your destiny requires. Listen carefully. Identity has spoken, but identity must now move. You have declared who you are. Now you must do what that identity does. Discipline is the bridge. You must understand this. Discipline is doing what must be done, when it must be done, whether you feel like it or not. Because purpose has deadlines. Not arbitrary deadlines, divine ones. Assignments expire if you never execute them. Doors close while you're still drafting intentions. Dreams die in the gap between revelation and routine. Discipline is the bridge over that gap. It carries you from vision to visibility, from desire to deliverables, from anointed moments to measurable outcomes. Without it, you build castles in your mind and campsites in your calendar. With it, you turn convictions into construction. I want you to hear me clearly. You have to break your addiction to motivation. If you need a feeling to obey, you will live in circles. Feelings are weather. Discipline is climate. Weather changes hourly. Climate governs seasons. Some days the sky of your mind will be blue, enthusiasm, clarity, energy. Other days the clouds will hang low, fatigue, doubt, distraction. If you only move on sunny days, you'll never cross the year. Kings don't submit to weather, they build for climate. Stop waiting for motivation and force yourself into organization. You can't pray your way into a life you are not willing to structure. Inspiration is a spark. Discipline is the engine. Sparks ignite, engines move. Sparks are loud and brief, engines are steady and carrying. Which one do you live by? Now, let me teach you a law that does not bend for anyone, the law of repetition. Consistency is not intensity, it is frequency. Destiny is not sustained by occasional marathons of effort. It is built by daily miles of obedience. 5 faithful minutes with God, repeated every morning, will reform your soul. More than one emotional night of tears you never repeat. A simple, planned, executed task each day will erect more future than a weekend of frenzy followed by a week of nothing. You reap what you sow, but you also reap how often you sow. Heaven designed growth to respond to rhythm, morning and evening, seed time and harvest, daily bread. Why? Because frequency forms grooves, and grooves become highways for grace. Your mind learns your rhythm and stops arguing. Your emotions learn your rhythm and stop interrupting. Your environment learns your rhythm and starts supporting. Small, obedient actions repeated create spiritual momentum. So what does this look like in your life? Non-negotiables. Fixed points that anchor your days and weeks, so your identity survives your moods, and your purpose survives your pressures. If you are a royal priesthood, then fix your meeting with the King. Choose a daily hour for the word and prayer that is sacred. Same place, same time, same signal to your soul. Guard it like a throne room. Don't schedule over it. Don't apologize for it. Don't trade it for trivialities. If you are a steward, then fix your planning rhythm. One weekly review where you look back with honesty and forward with clarity. Appointments set, priorities ranked, tasks allocated, budgets reviewed. If you are a builder, then fix your execution window. A daily block where deep work is done. No notifications, no wandering, no social media. Close the door, close the tabs, open the assignment. And if you are a son or daughter of wisdom, fix your rest boundary. A set bedtime, a Sabbath rhythm, a cutoff for screens. Rest is not laziness. It is stewardship of the instrument God uses. Your mind, your body, your focus. These are not suggestions. These are decrees for a government called your life. I can already hear your objections. But what if something urgent comes up? Listen carefully. When everything is urgent, nothing is important. Urgency is often the voice of your past mismanagement, trying to hijack your present obedience. There will be true emergencies, rare and obvious. Handle them, but treat interruptions as petitioners at your gate, not bandits who jump your wall. Your schedule is your shield. In spiritual warfare, the enemy does not only tempt, he distracts. He does not always need to defeat you. He just needs to divide your attention. Scatter the soldiers of your focus, and your vision is vulnerable. But when you armor your day with structure, your time becomes a fortress. Your prayer appointment is a helmet. Your planning rhythm is a breastplate. Your execution block is a sword. Your rest boundary is a shield. Notifications then look like arrows. They only pierce if you lay down your guard. Set your gates. Decide your windows. Establish your watch. You will find that half your battles vanish when your boundaries are visible. Some of you think discipline is harsh. You hear the word and feel punishment. The truth is, discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your focus from fracture, your energy from leakage, your identity from erosion. It is not a cage. It is a carriage that delivers you to destiny on time. And hear me, discipline is not a personality type. It is a decision type. You decide once, then you honor that decision daily. Pre-decide what you will do when you do not feel like doing it. Pre-decide that you pray before you post, that you plan before you accept invitations, that you execute before you entertain, that you rest before you collapse. When the moment arrives, the decision is already made. Feelings become facts employees, not their bosses. Let me make this tangible. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm speaks, don't negotiate. Sit up. Put your feet on the floor. Whisper your identity. I am a steward. I am faithful. I meet my King. Open the word, even if your eyes feel heavy. Pray the promises, even if your emotions feel quiet. You are not performing for feelings. You are practicing fidelity. During your execution block, when distraction knocks, do not answer every door. Keep a capture list for stray thoughts. Write them down. Return to the task. Train your brain like a soldier returning to orders. In your weekly review, when guilt tries to lead the meeting, dismiss it and invite truth. Ask, what worked? What failed? What will I change? Adjust the system, not just your self-talk. And at your rest boundary, when a show or a scroll begs for one more hour, answer with honor. Royalty keeps curfews for the sake of tomorrow's coronations. You must understand this. When you live this way, spiritual warfare changes shape. You will still face trials, but you will not add chaos to them. You will still hear lies, but they will not drive your schedule. You will still feel pressure, but pressure will not dictate policy. Why? Because your inner government is functioning. Order on the inside births peace on the outside. And wherever peace reigns, productivity multiplies. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Let that become the constitution of your calendar. Now let me pivot you into a greater revelation. Discipline is not an end in itself. It is the engine that powers stewardship. Systems are how discipline expresses love for purpose. You don't create non-negotiables to brag about how strict you are. You create them to build capacity for what God wants to entrust to you. Every blessing you've been praying for requires a level of structure to sustain it. The opportunity you want will become an obligation if you lack systems. The increase you desire will become anxiety if you lack management. He won't release your next level until you create the capacity to handle it. You can declare more all day long, but heaven answers, how? How will you manage more people, more projects, more provision, more influence? Discipline answers with patterns. Patterns answer with predictability. Predictability answers with trust. And trust answers with increase. So make the shift today. Move from being a person who waits for mood to a person who honors mandate. Build your bridge. Lay it plank by plank. Pre-decided prayer, pre-decided planning, pre-decided execution, pre-decided rest, and walk across it every day until your feet don't even ask where they're going. Destiny is not sustained by inspiration. It is sustained by disciplined implementation. When you live that creed, you won't need to chase motivation. Momentum will start chasing you. Peace replaces panic. Focus replaces frustration. Confidence replaces confusion. Not because life got easier, but because your governance got stronger. And from here, we step into stewardship. Because God increases what is managed, not what is merely desired. Listen carefully. We are now standing at the gate called promotion, and I must tell you the password. Capacity comes before increase. Heaven does not promote chaos. God will not fund what you will not manage. You must understand this. In the kingdom, what you can organize, you qualify to multiply. The king looks for order, and where he finds structure, he entrusts supply. The scripture says, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. If peace is his signature, then order is his contract. If you want him to sign off on your next level, put the paperwork of stewardship on the table. Let me challenge you as a leader. If you cannot govern your time, you are not ready to govern a team. If you cannot manage your money, you are not ready to manage a ministry or a marketplace mandate. If you cannot discipline your body, waking it, resting it, fueling it, you are not ready for the miles your assignment will demand. If you cannot regulate your emotions, hold your tongue, direct your thoughts, stabilize your responses, you are not ready to shepherd people who will bring their storms to your door. Leadership is stewardship with witnesses. Before God gives you public weight, he watches your private weights. The truth is, self-government is the first government of the kingdom. Private order precedes public authority. Until you can lead your mornings, you cannot credibly lead meetings. Until you can govern your appetites, you cannot credibly govern your opportunities. Now let me ask you some hard questions, with love but without apology. How can heaven trust you with more when you keep losing track of what is already in your hands? Where are your hours going? Do you know, or are you surprised every evening by how little was done? Where are your commitments resting? Are they honored appointments or abandoned promises? What about your relationships? Are you tending them with intention or only visiting them when you need something? And your resources? Do you know where each dollar is assigned? Or do you meet your bank account like a stranger every month? We ask for more influence, but cannot steward our words. We ask for more provision, but cannot steward a plan. We ask for more visibility, but cannot steward the disciplines that keep a soul from cracking under light. Hear me, promotion is attracted to management. Increase looks for containers. Favor seeks a framework to sit on. The problem is not that you haven't prayed enough. The problem is that you have prayed for what you have not prepared to carry. You can't pray your way into a life you refuse to structure. Prayer is powerful. It opens doors, it summons wisdom, it strengthens resolve. But prayer is not a substitute for planning. It is the engine that fuels it. Prayer gives you revelation. Stewardship turns revelation into regulation, policies and practices that keep the blessing from leaking. Think about the servant who hid his talent in the ground. He did not lose it to theft. He lost promotion to mismanagement. The others didn't work a miracle. They worked a system. They knew where to put the money, how to measure the return, when to settle the accounts. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. That is heaven's HR policy. Faithful first, then more. Now here is your hope. Creating capacity is not complicated. It is consistent. One system at a time, one domain at a time. Don't try to remodel your whole life in a weekend. Start with the drawer called time. Choose a central calendar. Plot your fixed points, your meeting with God, your most important work block, your rest boundary. Color them, protect them. Then visit the drawer called money. Assign every dollar a job before the month begins. Give generosity a line, savings a line, essentials a line, development a line. Review it weekly until your money salutes when you speak. Then the drawer called body. Decide your sleep window, your movement plan, your fuel choices. Not perfect, predictable. Then the drawer called emotions. Create a daily processing habit. Prayer, journaling, a mentor check-in, scriptures that retrain your responses, small turns, daily repeats. Systems don't need to be fancy, they need to be faithful. Let me paint a picture. Two people receive the same opportunity, an unexpected influx, a door to expand, a platform to lead. The first shouts hallelujah and throws it into an unstructured life. Money hits an unmarked account. Tasks land in an unplanned week. People enter an unbound schedule. Within months, they are heavier in stress, thinner in focus, and poorer in peace. The blessing became a burden because there was no bucket to hold it. The second whispers, thank you, then sets it inside a system. Money is assigned. Meetings are filtered by priorities. Processes are documented. Responsibilities are distributed. Within months, they are lighter in stress, deeper in effectiveness, richer in peace. Same opportunity, different capacity. One leaked, one multiplied. Which one will you be? Listen carefully. Patterns create predictability. Predictability creates trust. Trust creates transfer. That's how heaven promotes. God is not watching your moods. He is watching your management. He is not checking your excitement. He is checking your execution. Your reputation in heaven is not based on your volume in worship only. It is measured by your value in stewardship. What do your rhythms say about you? Do they say, this one can carry weight? Do they say, this one keeps their word to small things, so I can entrust big things? Until you understand this, you will confuse desire for readiness. But desire is not readiness. Structure is readiness. Capacity is readiness. Let me call you higher with specifics. Audit your week like a leader. Where did unassigned time drain you? Where did unbudgeted spending accuse you? Where did unprocessed emotion hijack you? Adjust the system, not just the feeling. Tighten a boundary. Simplify a step. Clarify a checklist. Delegate a task. Document a process so you don't have to reinvent obedience every Tuesday. Build dashboards for your life. Simple reviews for time, money, mind, and mission that tell you the truth at a glance. When you do this consistently, you scale character into capability. You convert faithfulness in little into fitness for much. Organization tells heaven, I'm ready for more. I know some of you fear that structure will suffocate spontaneity. The truth is, structure creates space. When your obligations are organized, your mind is free to receive inspiration. When your finances are assigned, generosity can flow without fear. When your calendar is clear in its priorities, you can spot divine interruptions. without drowning in unnecessary ones. Order multiplies options, peace multiplies possibilities, and in that atmosphere, increase does not crush you, it crowns you. So here is your decision point. Stop merely asking for more. Start arranging for more. Stop announcing next level and start architecting the capacity that invites it. Build systems that can carry the weight you're praying for. Govern your mornings, govern your meetings, govern your money, govern your moods. If you will manage the present with honor, the future will arrive with trust. If you will steward what is in your hand, what is in God's heart will find you. Capacity is built through consistent management, not occasional effort. And now hear the pivot that prepares the way ahead. Capacity grows not only by adding systems, but by removing what chokes them. Some of you are not empty. You are overcrowded. God cannot fill what is already full. The next measure of grace will not sit on top of clutter. We must clear the space, physical, emotional, and spiritual, so that order can breathe and increase, can rest without spilling. We move there next, because the room you make is the room God multiplies. Listen carefully. Before you add another plan, another tool, another commitment, you must clear the space where obedience is supposed to live. Some of you are not failing loudly. You are leaking quietly because your life is crowded. Not bad people, not weak believers, just overcrowded hearts, overcrowded calendars, overcrowded rooms. God cannot fill what is already full. You must understand this. Clutter is not just the mess you see around you. Clutter is everything that occupies space with no assignment and steals energy without giving fruit. It is physical piles, yes, but it is also emotional baggage, unresolved conversations, unmanaged commitments, spiritual distractions, and the mental noise humming so loud you cannot hear the still small voice. The result? Obedience that should be simple feels impossible. What should be light becomes heavy. What should be quick becomes complicated. And you call it procrastination, but the real word is friction. Have you noticed how a small drawer out of order can slow down an entire morning? Keys missing, chargers tangled, documents buried, 5 minutes becomes 15. Frustration rises, you reach the car irritated and already behind. Now imagine that drawer multiplied into your emotions, your relationships, your schedule, your digital life. That is what inconsistency feeds on. Micro frictions that make faithfulness feel exhausting. The problem is not that you lack vision. The problem is that your vision is trying to run through mud. Clutter is mud. It adds weight where there should be flow. It adds questions where there should be clarity. It adds decision points where there should be rhythms. And soon the heaviness teaches you to quit early, to delay obedience, to choose the easy scroll over the holy step. Let me name the domains so you stop fighting a ghost. Physical clutter, spaces that do not support your assignment. Emotional clutter, unprocessed pains, anxieties, resentments you keep rehearsing like they pay rent. Relational clutter, people you have not defined, boundaries you have not drawn, expectations you have not clarified. Schedule clutter, obligations you agreed to that no longer align. Activities that keep you busy but not productive. Spiritual clutter, voices, inputs, entertainments that dilute your appetite for the word and distract you from prayer. Mental clutter, open loops, half-finished tasks, scattered notes, browser tabs of your brain never closed. Clutter in one area bleeds into the others until your soul feels like a crowded hallway, and destiny cannot pass through crowded hallways. Now, hear this with hope. Clearing clutter is not punishment. It is liberation. Cast all your cares on Him, for He cares for you. That is not poetry. That is procedure. That is heaven telling you how to offload weight. Emotional offloading is not weakness. It is wise stewardship of your soul. Bring Him the anger you keep bottling. Bring Him the anxiety that keeps you up at night. Bring him the grief you keep postponing. When you cast, you transfer ownership. You stop being the warehouse of every burden and let the king become the carrier. Pray out loud, journal specifically, name what you're carrying and where it hurts. Release the outcome from your control to his governance. And watch peace begin to make room where panic had pitched a tent. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Where you refuse to cast, confusion accumulates. Where you cast, peace organizes. But do not stop at prayer alone. The Spirit will lead you into practices. Start with one physical area that touches your assignment daily. Not the whole house, one station, your desk, your nightstand, your kitchen counter where mornings start. Clear it ruthlessly. Remove the non-essential. Assign a home to what remains. Create a docking station for tools you touch every day. Bible, journal, pen, laptop, charger, headphones. Label a drawer. Place a tray. Make it so easy to begin that obedience doesn't have to climb over a mess. Then face your schedule, but only one category at first. Choose your mornings or your meetings. If mornings, pre-decide a simple, repeatable sequence. Wake, water, word, work. No debate, no drift. If meetings, set theme days or decision windows. Decide when you say yes and when you say not this week. Protect deep work from death by 1,000 interruptions. Clarity is kindness to your future. Now turn to relationships. One boundary. That conversation you've been avoiding is a pile on the floor of your heart. Set the meeting. State the truth in love. Define expectations. Establish office hours for availability. Choose response windows for messages. Decide that no is a holy word when yes would betray your purpose. Some of you are not exhausted because of work. You are exhausted because of ungoverned access. You have built no gates around your garden, and you are surprised by trampled fruit. Gates do not mean you lack compassion. They mean you value your calling. Royalty is accessible but not absorbable. Learn to be present without being pilfered. I want you to recognize a deeper law at work. What you tolerate will train you. If you tolerate disorder on your desk, it will tutor your mind to accept confusion in your decisions. If you tolerate constant interruptions, it will tutor your focus to accept fragmentation as normal. If you tolerate emotional avoidance, it will tutor your heart to accept internal dissonance as identity. But if you tolerate nothing that contradicts your purpose, your life will begin to tutor you in excellence. Your environment is an instructor. Arrange it to teach you obedience. Arrange it to cue your soul for peace. Arrange it to normalize follow-through. Until you understand this, you will think you are battling demons when you are actually battling drawers and unspoken boundaries. Let me get very practical because revelation must become regulation. Today, choose your one space. 15 minutes, trash bag, box, cloth. What is broken, toss it. What has no assignment, remove it. What serves purpose, place it where your hand can reach it without thinking. Then choose your one schedule category. Open your calendar, insert the non-negotiables first. Your meeting with God, your execution block, your rest boundary. Color them, name them with verbs. Protect them with alarms and with no. Then choose your one relationship boundary. Compose the message. Draft the script. Honor both truth and grace. Deliver it. Will your heart pound? Probably. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is governance of it. Do these 3 in one day, and you will feel something shift. A lightness, a clarity, a quiet confidence that says, I am not a victim of clutter. I am a governor of my life. Now, let me warn you like a father. As soon as you clear, distractions will audition again. Old habits will ask for their room back. Voices will call you too rigid, too serious, too unavailable. Smile and remember, you are not building a museum to everyone's preferences. You are building a greenhouse for your assignment. Greenhouses regulate climate to protect precious growth. You are protecting your growth. Consistency cannot grow in a storm of clutter. Peace cannot root in a soil of constant noise. Protect the climate. Remember, friction makes obedience feel heavy. Heaviness breeds quitting. Remove the friction. Reduce the decision points. Limit the inputs. Simplify the pathways. Make it easier to be faithful than to fail. As clutter lifts, you will notice something new. Space. Space in your mind. Space in your day. Space in your heart. Do not rush to fill it with random activity. Space is holy. Space is where priorities breathe and vision speaks. Order without direction leads to frustration. This is where we move from cleared rooms to clear reasons. Write the vision and make it plain, that he may run who reads it. You are about to give your liberated life a lane, so your consistency has a target. Not more motion, aligned movement. Not more tasks, kingdom priorities. We will place guardrails around what matters most so that the space you created does not become a parking lot for distractions, but a runway for destiny. Because when clutter is removed and vision is guarded, peace replaces panic, focus replaces frustration, and your life begins to move with the cadence of a king who is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Listen carefully. Space without direction becomes a parking lot for distractions, but space with direction becomes a runway for destiny. You must understand this. The next move is not more activity but clarity. Write the vision and make it plain, that he may run who reads it. That is not a suggestion. That is a system. Clarity is the trigger for movement. Until you can see it, you cannot steward it. Until you can state it, you cannot sustain it. Some of you feel weary not because your spirit is weak, but because your vision is fuzzy. Fuzzy vision makes faithful action feel pointless. Why show up if you don't know where you are going? Why keep the routine if the destination is undefined? You don't lack energy, you lack aim. And a life without aim is prey to every noise that screams for attention. Have you noticed how you start the year on fire, then fizzle by February? You registered for courses, bought the books, posted the quote, told your friends, and then disappeared. Why? Because you started with excitement but without a target. Excitement is a spark, it is not a map. Consistency becomes boring when there is no scoreboard. Obedience feels monotonous when it isn't pointed at a clear outcome. You did not fail, you just ran out of why. The truth is, feelings can ignite a moment, but only vision can sustain a movement. When vision is plain, repetition becomes revelation. The same prayer becomes deeper, the same workout becomes purpose, the same budget becomes worship. Without vision, repetition feels like prison. With vision, repetition feels like progress. Now let me father you with a distinction that will save your destiny. The urgent is loud, the important is quiet. The urgent screams, the important builds. The urgent is everyone else's emergency. The important is your assignment's necessity. Which one is governing your days? Emails shout, notifications buzz, people text, have a minute, and steal an hour. The urgent gossips, if you don't respond now, the world ends. The important whispers, if you don't build me now, your purpose leaks. Inconsistency is not always laziness. Often it is a life managed by noise instead of purpose. You keep answering what is screaming and abandoning what is strategic. Hear me. If you don't choose the important, the urgent will choose you. And if the urgent chooses you, your destiny pays the bill. So we recover order with a simple, holy framework, clear enough to repeat, strong enough to direct, flexible enough to endure. I want you to carve your life into 3 layers of focus. 3 priorities for the season, 1 priority for the week, 1 priority for the day. That's it. 3, 1, 1. Simple enough to remember when you are tired. Strong enough to cut through noise when it grows loud. First, define your season. 90 days is wise. It is long enough to matter, short enough to measure. Ask, in this season, what 3 outcomes, if achieved, would most advance my assignment? Make them vision-aligned and measurable. Not be healthier, but sleep 7 hours nightly and train 4 days weekly. Not grow spiritually, but daily morning word and prayer for 45 minutes 5 days weekly, with a weekly Sabbath boundary. Not expand influence, but publish 8 value-rich pieces and host 2 strategic meetings per month. Write them, make them plain. Place them where your eyes must see them, on your wall, your planner, your device lock screen. Pray over them, speak to them. If it's not in your top 3, it is not priority, it is optional. Second, every week before it begins, select one must-win that moves one of those seasonal priorities forward in a measurable way. Just one. This is stewardship, not superstition. Choose the lever task, the move that, if executed, makes other tasks easier or unnecessary. Schedule the research session, draft the proposal, record the teaching, host the hard conversation. One weekly must-win. Then, each morning, choose one daily must-win that pushes your weekly must-win over the line. Not 10, not 7. 1. If the day gets ambushed, at least the most important thing received your best attention, and when you finish that one, do the next most aligned thing. This cadence, 3 for the season, 1 for the week, 1 for the day, builds momentum without demanding perfection. It turns vague intention into visible traction, and traction is motivation's older, wiser cousin. When you see wheels grip, you want to drive. Let me correct a lie that keeps you wandering. Some of you have baptized disorganization by calling it waiting on God. You say, I'm praying about it, but you have been praying for months with no pen to paper, no plan to practice, no mentor to review. Write the vision and make it plain is already an answer to your prayer. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, is already light on your path. You don't need another prophecy to forgive your enemy. The instruction is written. You don't need an angel to tell you to prepare for the exam. The calendar is waiting. You don't need a dream to start the savings plan. Wisdom has spoken. Waiting on God is holy when God has not spoken. But when God has spoken, waiting becomes disobedience wrapped in language. Obedience is not a feeling. Obedience is alignment. Make it plain, then make it protected. Protection is where most visions die. You write it, but you don't guard it. You announce it, but you don't defend it from drift. Listen carefully. Priorities that are not protected will be plundered. If your top 3 for the season matter, they must become filters, not just slogans. When a new request arrives, ask, does this directly serve one of my 3? If yes, consider it. If maybe, defer it. If no, decline it graciously. Your no is a fence that keeps your yes fruitful. Build guardrails around your must-wins. Decide response windows for communications so you don't live enslaved to alerts. Batch shallow work so it doesn't bleed into deep work. Establish meeting rules, agenda required, outcomes defined, time-bound. Practice the Sabbath boundary to protect restoration. Remember, royalty is accessible by protocol. Protocol preserves purpose. Let me paint a picture so you can see the freedom of a protected vision. 2 people carry the same calling into the same week. The first wakes reactive. No clear weekly must-win. The day is a buffet with no plate. Urgent requests flood the morning. By noon, their energy is scattered. By evening, guilt is loud and progress is invisible. They conclude, maybe I'm not called. No, you're called. You're just unguarded. The second wakes directed. The weekly must-win is written at the top of the day. The daily must-win is circled. Notifications are silenced for the first 90 minutes. The hard thing gets their first energy. Even when interruptions come, alignment returns because direction is written, not remembered. By evening, traction is visible and confidence grows. Same calling, different protection. Peace replaces panic, focus replaces frustration, confidence replaces confusion. Now, hear a family warning. People will not always celebrate your protected priorities. They will call your boundaries cold. They will label your focus pride. Smile. You are not building a monument to people-pleasing. You are building a mission for kingdom impact. The vision is kingdom property. You are its steward, not its hostage. Guard it with humility and firmness. Communicate with grace and clarity. Treat your top 3 like reserved seats. You cannot leave them open for anyone who wanders in late. Reserve them, guard them, sit in them. I want you to practice the weekly alignment ritual. Before the week begins, Sunday evening or early Monday, review your 3 seasonal priorities. Ask, what one outcome this week advances one of these? Write it. Make it binary, done or not done. Then plan your daily must-wins for the first 3 days. Keep them small enough to start, significant enough to matter. Each morning, read your 3, pray them, visualize their completion, and then protect the first block for the daily must-win. Midweek, reassess. If you drifted, don't condemn yourself, correct yourself, realign, and continue. This is leadership, self-government refined in small adjustments. The enemy doesn't always need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you. A distracted life is an inconsistent life. A protected vision is an anchored life. When your eyes are fixed, your feet find rhythm. When your purpose is plain, your priorities become predictable. And predictability births trust. Trust in yourself, trust from others, trust from heaven, because God promotes patterns He can bless. He is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Make your life a document He can sign. Now, until you understand this, you will keep writing intentions on paper and leaving them homeless in practice. Priorities are born on paper, but they live in time. This is our next step. If vision is the blueprint, time is the currency that pays for the building. We will take your 3, your 1, and your 1, and we will place them into hours and days, into rhythms and blocks, because ungoverned time will always betray a holy plan. Your destiny deserves better than leftovers. Your calling requires a schedule that bows to purpose. We move there next, because the kingdom advances not by accident, but by order set to the beat of sacred time. Listen carefully. Time is not your employee, it is your assignment. Time is the platform through which purpose is fulfilled. If you waste it, you don't just lose minutes, you forfeit manifestations. You must understand this. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. That means purpose travels on time, and if you do not govern your time, something else will, and your destiny will pay the price. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Confusion is a schedule with no king. Peace is a schedule under divine order. Order is not optional. Order is how the kingdom advances through your calendar. Have you noticed how you don't fail in a day? You leak in 10-minute drips, 5 minutes here, a quick check there, a scroll that steals an hour you swore you didn't have. The truth is, your future is not being stolen by giants. It is being pickpocketed by moments. You keep asking for more time when heaven keeps asking for more stewardship. Time is sacred because it is the only currency you cannot earn back. Money returns. Energy recovers. Time only moves forward. When you spend it on the trivial, you underfund your assignment. When you invest it into patterns that serve your purpose, progress compounds. You can pray all night, but you cannot bypass the law of stewardship. You can't pray your way into a life you refuse to structure. Prayer activates grace. Structure preserves it. Now hear the reframe that will free you from guilt and give you governance. A schedule is not legalism. It is lordship over your life. Planning is not control freak behavior, it is evidence of maturity. The king rules his kingdom by decrees, and your calendar is where you issue your decrees to the hours he has entrusted to you. When you leave your time unassigned, you leave your purpose undefended. Stop waiting for motivation and force yourself into organization, because when you master self-discipline, you master life. Every organized life begins with one thing: self-discipline expressed through time. So let's take your vision off the wall and put it into your week. We are keeping the framework simple: 3 for the season, 1 for the week, 1 for the day. And now we place them into hours. Time block your must-wins. Choose your peak focus window. Most of you, that's the first 90 minutes of your workday, and give that freshest energy to the daily must-win that advances your weekly must-win. Name it on your calendar with a verb: draft proposal, record lesson, study chapter, call mentor. Set a start time and a stop time. Why the stop? Because work without walls spills into everything and breeds resentment. Walls create windows. Windows create focus. After the deep block, insert a transition buffer, 10 to 15 minutes to stretch, to hydrate, to review what's next. Buffers are not laziness. They are lubrication for momentum. Then batch your shallow tasks, emails, messages, confirmations, into 1 or 2 short blocks so they stop ambushing your deep work with death by 1,000 dings. Build anchors around your day, morning and evening, so your life has hinges. Your morning anchor is simple and sacred. Wake, water, word, work. No negotiation. Wake the body, hydrate the brain, enter the word and prayer, so peace sets the climate. Then move directly into your must-win before the world's noise finds you. Your evening anchor is closure and preparation. Review the day, write tomorrow's top 1, tidy the space, shut down the screen, and go to bed at a consistent time. Sleep is not optional. It is stewardship of the temple you work through. A tired mind is an inconsistent mind. If you want faithful days, protect restorative nights. Now, let's confront the sabotage that keeps throwing you off rhythm: fatigue. Address it with bedtime boundaries and energy-aware planning. You are not lazy, you are underslept. Set a digital sunset an hour before bed. Reduce blue light. Park your phone outside the bedroom. Put your alarm across the room. Decide your pre-sleep routine and stop scrolling yourself into exhaustion. Phone distraction. Treat it like the thief it is. Do not disturb during deep blocks. Silence non-essential notifications permanently. Turn your home screen grayscale if you must. Move social apps off the first page or onto a secondary device reserved for breaks. Create response windows, 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m., for example, and stop the drip that dissolves your focus. Unplanned social access. Set office hours for availability. Your kindness doesn't require constant access. It requires consistent purpose. Define when you are reachable and communicate it clearly. Emotional spirals. Plan a reset ritual. When you feel the spiral, do 3 things. Breathe slowly for 60 seconds. Pray a simple alignment prayer and write the one next step that re-enters you into your schedule. Capture open loops with a brain dump list, but don't let the list lead. Transfer the aligned items to actual time blocks, or they will multiply like rabbits in your mind. I want you to hear this as a father in the faith. Managing your time wisely is one of the highest forms of worship. Time is sacred because it is the platform through which purpose is fulfilled. When you calendar your communion, your study, your service, your craft, your rest, you are telling heaven, I value what you valued enough to give me breath today. Organization tells heaven, I'm ready for more. He won't release your next level until you create the capacity to handle it. Every blessing you've been praying for requires a level of structure to sustain it. How can God trust you with more when you are still losing track of what's already in your hands? Let me make this concrete Start with the 168-hour truth. Every week gives you the same allotment as kings and beggars. First, tithe your time to what builds your spirit and body, your daily word and prayer, your sleep window, your training sessions, your Sabbath boundary. Place them first. Protect them with alarms and with no. Next, block your deep work windows 4 to 5 days a week, 90 to 120 minutes each, aligned with your weekly must-win. Then batch your shallow work and your meetings. Require agendas. Limit time. Guard the first 2 hours of your morning from other people's priorities. Finally, reserve transition buffers and a weekly review block, Sunday evening or early Monday, to align the coming days with your top 3. This is not complicated, it is costly. It costs excuses, but the reward is peace. 2 lives, same calling. One floats through days reacting. The phone is the bell. They are the student. Their schedule is a blank page, so anyone can write on it. By Friday, they're exhausted and empty-handed, confused why they're busy but not fruitful. The other governs. The morning anchor is sacred. The deep block gets first energy. Meetings are batched. Notifications obey. Buffers ease transitions. Even when everything doesn't go to plan, there is a plan to return to. By Friday, traction is visible. Peace replaces panic. Focus replaces frustration. Confidence replaces confusion. Which one are you training yourself to become? Now I can hear someone say, what if interruptions come? What if the day falls apart? It will. Welcome to leadership. But disciplined systems don't demand perfection. They provide a home you can return to after disruption. Pre-decide an if-then rule. If a crisis hijacks a morning, then I return at the next scheduled block without shame. If a meeting overruns, then I shorten or move non-essentials, not the must-win. If fatigue hits, then I trade intensity for consistency, doing a lighter version instead of quitting. You must understand this. Consistency is not doing everything every day. It is showing up for the right things in the right order, again and again, especially when you don't feel like it. Set boundaries with people as firmly as you do with apps. I'm available between these hours. I don't take meetings on my deep work mornings. I respond within 24 hours. Your life is not public property. It is kingdom property under your stewardship. You are responsible to many, but you are accountable to God for how you allocate your time. Say it with me in your spirit. My schedule is a covenant with my calling. I will not renegotiate it with distraction. I will not betray it to please. I will not abandon it because I'm bored. I will honor it because it honors God. And remember, systems are servants, not masters. They exist to support your assignment, not to suffocate it. Start small. 1 deep block tomorrow. 1 evening shutdown ritual tonight. 1 phone boundary right now. Add more as your trust in yourself grows. Discipline today creates destiny tomorrow. A week of new rhythm becomes a month of traction, becomes a quarter of progress, becomes a year of harvest. Because God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, and where peace dwells, progress begins. Now hear the turn, because this is where many give up. Schedules sound strong when the sun is out, but storms reveal what's real. The measure of your consistency is not when it's easy, it's when it's costly. When pressure hits, deadlines, disappointments, delays, your system must do more than look pretty on paper. It must carry you across the day. That is where we go next. We will train your soul to show up anyway, to keep the appointment with destiny even when feelings refuse. Because leaders are not defined by ideal conditions. They are forged by faithful decisions under pressure. Have you noticed how your routines feel strong until real life walks in? You were consistent while the skies were clear. Then a deadline roared, a child got sick, a friend disappointed you, the car light flashed, travel stole your sleep, and suddenly the habits you called convictions collapsed like tents in a storm. Listen carefully. Pressure does not destroy consistency. It reveals whether your consistency was built on mood or on identity. Some of you have cultivated a devotion to convenience, not to calling. You think you are disciplined, but you've been obedient only to favorable conditions. The truth is, faithfulness is not proven by what you start. It is proven by what you continue under strain. Leaders are not crowned for enthusiasm. They are recognized for endurance. You must understand this. Growth has a sound, and it is not applause. It is the sound of feet returning to assignment after being knocked down. It is the whisper of prayers prayed with tears. It is the quiet scratch of a pen moving across a page at 5 a.m. when feelings are still asleep. It is the click of a light turned off on time when anxiety wants you to scroll. That sound is not glamorous, but it is royal. Kingdom people keep showing up. He who endures to the end shall be saved. Endurance is not sensational. It is covenant. You said yes to the king, not to comfort. You said yes to your purpose, not to perfect conditions. So when pressure hits, you do not negotiate your identity with your atmosphere. You assert your order over your environment. Now hear me like a father. Many of you are stuck in a dangerous cycle. You build routines in a season of ease, pressure arrives, and your disciplines evaporate. Then guilt takes the microphone, shame writes the story, and you quit altogether until the next burst of inspiration. That is not warfare. That is mismanagement. Stop interpreting every disruption as a sign to stop. Disruption is often the classroom that matures your systems. Systems are successful only when they survive stress. If your plan collapses under pressure, adjust the plan. Don't abandon the purpose. You don't throw away the seed because the wind blew. You plant it deeper. This is leadership. This is self-government, and this is where your credibility is born. Until you understand that inconsistency is broken trust, you will treat your lapses like harmless delays. But people read you. Heaven reads you. Your own soul reads you. If your mouth says purpose but your feet refuse to show up, your life becomes a contradiction. Loud declarations with quiet betrayals. You cannot lead others beyond the level you consistently lead yourself. Your team watches your patterns. Your children learn your priorities from your calendar, not your speeches. Your community draws strength from your steadiness, not your slogans. When you keep the appointment with your assignment despite pressure, you build a reputation with yourself and with God. Promotion follows patterns he can trust. So what do we do when the day falls apart, when the feelings are gone, when fatigue sits heavy on your chest? We establish a minimum standard, not a cop-out, a covenant floor, a portable version of your commitments that survives the storm. When overwhelmed, you do the smallest faithful version rather than quitting entirely. You keep the chain unbroken. Pray 5 focused minutes when you planned 45. Read 1 chapter when the reading plan called for 3. Walk briskly for 10 minutes when the gym session was impossible. Write 150 words when your outline wanted 1,500. Make 1 strategic call when the meeting got canceled. Transfer $10 to savings when the month hit you. Send 1 sincere message to your spouse or child when date night had to move. Small is not weak. Small is wise. The floor protects the future. The floor preserves the identity. The floor tells your brain, we still are who we said we are. Once the storm passes, you return to the full expression. But you didn't break covenant in the dark. Let me correct the religious excuse that often masquerades as faith. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yes. Amen. But hear the application. Christ strengthens you to continue, not to be careless. Christ empowers your stewardship. He does not replace it. Grace is not an alternative to order. Grace is fuel for order. You can't invoke Philippians 4:13 to sanctify disorganization. You invoke it to anchor obedience when you feel weak. Through Christ is the power to close your eyes and sleep because you set a bedtime boundary. Through Christ is the strength to turn your phone face down and honor your deep work. Through Christ is the courage to show up for the must-win when anxiety begs you to clean the kitchen again. Dependence without discipline is still disobedience. Empowerment without structure is still waste. Receive strength, then spend it on the schedule that serves your calling. Some of you are saying, but the pressure is heavy. I know. I have walked through weeks when grief clouded my mind and deadlines mocked my faith. I have sat with the ache of disappointment and the sting of misunderstanding. Hear me. This is why we pre-decide. When emotions are loud, decisions must already be made. Establish your show-up protocol now. If travel scatters your week, your minimum standard travels with you. Bible on your phone, a short prayer liturgy, body weight movements in a hotel room, a 20-minute focus block before meetings begin. If a child's crisis absorbs your day, you pre-decide that you will return to your must-win at the next available slot rather than declaring the day lost. If a client cancels, you harvest the time. If you miss a morning, you own it by noon. There is no shame in adapting. There is danger in abandoning. I want to speak to your mind, the battlefield that turns tough days into wasted weeks. The enemy does not always need to break your faith. He just needs to convince you that a broken day means a broken destiny. That is a lie. A day can be redeemed. A week can be recovered. A month can be realigned. Repentance is not crying. It is course correction. Leaders correct quickly. Leaders return swiftly. Leaders refuse to hand a whole season to a single storm. Peace returns when you return to order. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Raise the minimum. Return to the plan. Resume the cadence. Your soul will follow your feet. Now lean in, because this is the measure of maturity. Showing up anyway. Not because it is easy, because it is right. Because it honors God. Because your future is listening. Because your name is on promises that require a consistent you. Feelings are unreliable narrators. They exaggerate today and ignore tomorrow. Vision speaks of the end from the beginning. When you build a life on vision, you can work while you weep. You can progress while you heal. You can practice while you wait, because order carries you when inspiration hides. The discipline of showing up anyway turns pressure into training. You will be surprised how often momentum appears on the other side of motion. Movement births motivation. Faithfulness awakens favor. And remember, the floor is not the finish line. It is the bridge across the flood. Some days, by God's grace, you will do more than you planned. Wonderful. But the crown is not for the sporadic sprint. It is for the stubborn finisher. Your assignments, your teams, your family and heaven are all looking for one proof. Will you still be here when the weather changes? Will you still be faithful when the applause fades? Will you still deliver when no one is watching? That is leadership. Self-leadership first. Public trust later. You don't demand authority. You demonstrate reliability. Govern yourself, and God will expand your government. So here is the covenant call rising in this room and in your spirit. Repair the leak. Name the places where pressure has been your permission slip to quit. Repent of mood-based discipline. Establish your minimum standards. Inscribe your show-up protocol. Tie your identity to your practices, not to your preferences. Plant your feet in the peace of ordered time. Lean hard on Christ for strength, not as a cover for confusion, but as power for precision. And declare with me in your spirit, I will show up anyway. I will not trade my future for today's weather. My schedule is a covenant with my calling. My consistency under pressure is my leadership in seed form. Decide it now. Do not wait for a calmer week. It may not come. Build the life that can carry the pressure you are praying to influence. Leaders are forged here, in the grind, in the return, in the quiet repetitions that no one praises, but heaven records. When you walk out of this moment, keep your appointment with destiny. One block, one call, one prayer, one step, then another, then another. This is the door to maturity. This is how kings are made. And as you practice this ordered faithfulness, get ready, because the next level is looking for someone it can trust. Listen carefully. This is the hour of decision. You are not failing suddenly. You are leaking quietly. The collapse you fear begins with tiny compromises, invisible to applause, but fully visible to heaven. The problem is not your desire. Your desire is honorable. The problem is the disorder that keeps draining it. The truth is, destiny is not reached by wishing. It is sustained by ordered living. Order restores peace. Discipline sustains destiny. Stewardship attracts increase. You can feel inspired tonight, but the kingdom moves tomorrow on what you structure, not on what you feel. You must understand this. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. And peace is the climate where progress matures. If you want a different future, you must run a different system. If you want enduring fruit, you must plant enduring habits. No more leaking in the dark. We are sealing the cracks by covenant. So right now, without delay, conduct a sober audit before God. Where is the leak? Name one leak specifically: a skipped morning anchor, a drifting bedtime, an unguarded phone, a meeting with no agenda, an undisciplined appetite, a vague goal that never lands on your calendar. Say it out loud in your heart. This is your admission of mismanagement, not your identity. Next, name one clutter source. Clutter is not just mess on a desk. It is the unresolved conversation that echoes in your mind, the box of regrets under your bed, the subscriptions you don't use but still pay for, the bitterness you nurse like a pet. Identify it. Then name one priority for this season, the one assignment that, if moved 1% each day, would advance your calling the most. Write it plainly. If it stays fuzzy, obedience will stay optional. Finally, choose one protected time block this week, the first fruits of your focus, when you will move that priority forward, not someday, not when you feel like it. Choose the hour. Guard it like a king guards a decree. Now, make a 7-day consistency covenant with your own soul and with God. 7 days, no excuses, no mood negotiations. For 7 days, you will keep your morning anchor without debate. For 7 days, you will honor your one must-win block, even if you have to perform the minimum faithful version. For 7 days, you will practice your shutdown ritual, review your next step, and protect your sleep boundary. For 7 days, you will obey your phone rules during deep work and your response windows at set times. Why 7? Because you don't build trust with time by promises. You build it by patterns. This covenant is not a challenge for your ego. It is a training ground for your government. When you keep it, your mind learns that your word is a law in your own kingdom. When you keep it, peace begins to take its rightful seat at the table of your days. Stop negotiating with your calling. Stop treating your destiny like a volunteer position. Stop letting feelings write your schedule. Force yourself into order. Write the vision and make it plain, then protect it with boundaries and with no. Structure your time as if heaven is watching, because heaven is. Finish what you start. Close your loops. Send the email you keep postponing. Delete the distraction you keep excusing. Clear the closet. Cancel the subscription. Schedule the study. Prepare the meals. Set the alarms. Establish the buffers. Refuse to betray your future for a flash of novelty. You are not a slave of interruptions. You are a steward of purpose. You are not a victim of moods. You are a governor over moments. Say it within. My schedule will serve my calling. My habits will honor my identity. My systems will carry my seasons. Hear hope, but not softness. God restores, but He restores through principles. He healed chaos in the beginning, not by emotion, but by order. He separated light from darkness, waters from waters, boundaries before beauty. Grace is not an escape hatch from responsibility. Grace is the wind in the sails of responsibility. You can't pray for harvest and neglect planting. You can't ask for promotion and neglect preparation. You can't desire increase and refuse management. He won't release your next level until you create the capacity to handle it. Every blessing you've been praying for requires a structure to sustain it. And the good news? You can build that structure. You can become the person who can carry what you have been asking for, not by a miracle of mood, but by a miracle of mastery, daily, steady, submitted, ordered. Now I want to commission you, and I want you to agree in your spirit. Father, we stand before you as stewards, not as spectators. Give us the strength to be faithful in small things, the first 10 minutes of prayer before screens, the one page when the book feels long, the one call when fear says, be silent. Grant us clarity to honor our seasons, what belongs to now, what belongs to later, what must be pruned though it is good, so we can guard what is God. Clothe us with courage to maintain discipline under pressure, to keep the appointment with purpose when storms test our resolve. Endow us with wisdom to steward increase, systems that fit our assignment, boundaries that protect our peace, rhythms that preserve our bodies, and humility that remembers the source. We renounce confusion. We embrace order. We receive grace not as an alibi for disorder, but as power for obedience. Establish in us a spirit of self-government, the fruit of self-control, the joy of a mind at peace under your rule. Now lift your head. This is not a pep talk. This is a decree. For the next 7 days, you will practice what you have professed. You will repair the leak, one seal at a time. You will remove one piece of clutter, physical or emotional, every day. You will protect one daily block for your must-win, even if you must do the lighter version. You will close your evenings with review and preparation, and you will speak over your life the language of order. I am disciplined. I am consistent. I am trustworthy with time, not because I feel it yet, but because I choose it now. And as you choose, heaven will confirm. Favor follows faithfulness. Increase follows stewardship. Peace follows order. Promotion follows patterns God can trust. Let this be the seal on your heart. You don't drift into destiny. You discipline into it. You don't stumble into a legacy. You structure it into your days. And your discipline, when aligned with the King, is worship. It is your yes turned into minutes. It is your faith turned into footsteps. It is your love for God translated into protected priorities and practiced obedience. Decide today. Structure today. Sustain it tomorrow. Repair the leak. Step into ordered living. And get ready, because your next level is already standing on the other side of your consistent obedience, waiting for the sound of your footsteps.